Well, welcome to the Wholeness Principle. It's my style to just jump right in all the time. Welcome to the Wholeness Principle. And I think I will continue doing my long ass every moon phase videos because they are my therapy right now. I'm sure that's evident. I wrote down a lot for our first phase because a lot was going on. Okay, this health phase. And I wrote health is plenty because I was tempted to write health is enough. It seems like the crisis of the individual that nobody feels like they are enough. And I can't even look at that right now because it's just so upsetting that it got to that point. So I'm not addressing the self-esteem today. I just want to take a moment to say that health is not just enough, but it is plenty. We don't need all those the questions of self-worth. Health is wealth, and health is enough. Your health is your plenty. And if you haven't secured a basic sense of health, physical, mental, emotional, then everything you're doing to try to trick yourself into believing you have some kind of self-esteem, which you don't. If you're ignoring your health, your actual well-being, that's nothing you're achieving is going to make you feel self-esteem. It's just going to reveal the fact that you're chasing after illusions because you're not going to be fulfilled by anything you're chasing. So once you've reached that state of honesty with yourself, like, this is not working, none of this is working, I've gotten everything I've wanted. Can you observe that in your life? The things that you have wanted, that you have gotten, that have not fulfilled you, you've continued with the same toxic emotional pattern of dissatisfaction. And I mean, that's the root, that's the rot at the root, which causes the rest of human toxicity, is taking everyone and everything for granted. Because it was supposed to fulfill you, wasn't it? Not if you, the plant, have completely neglected yourself. That's your first act of service toward any other person, is doing the basic maintenance on yourself, that you don't require their assistance just to live, just to feel worthy of living, just to, I don't know, this Christian ordering of priorities: love God, love thy neighbor. Love God is just pointing to the basic faith that you need to love your own existence and to place your health as a priority, as a sanctified being upon this planet that God has brought into existence. And you get to fill in the blank on what God is, because what we really mean when we say God is our highest value. So whatever your highest value is, that's what you're going to idealize as God. And that's why God has so many faces. Beyond that, yes, you love your neighbor, which is anybody around you that you recognize as also another plant. Your love of yourself as a sanctified being allows you to love others as themselves, as sanctified beings. And that's where our feeling of being enough, being plenty even, comes from. Or let's just call it being enough, because the plenty, the feeling of plenty, the table being fully set, the land of milk and honey, that's the Libra territory that I talked about in my last video, where I said, I'm not talking about love of God or neighbor, I'm talking about Libra love. Okay, that needs to be a priority after you've made the God and the neighbor the priorities. Yes, just what we do is we flip-flop and say one thing is so important, and instead of keeping that thing as important, we're like, throw that away. Now this thing's important. It's all important. Okay. And that's enough. I have said plenty. That's my whole video for this. Oh, what? Look at all this crap. This was a crazy day. This Aquarius full moon. Okay, let me add my little story about the Mars-Venus square, because I didn't hear anybody else talk about this. I saw one video where I think it was Adam Ellenboss's video about the Mars-Venus square, and I don't think it was his main topic for that video even. He just mentioned the Mars-Venus square. He didn't say that Mars and Venus were returning to their exact same degree. This recent one, Mars was at 21 degrees Gemini, Venus was at 21 degrees Virgo. Almost exactly 1 year ago, in July of 2025, they were in the exact same degree point, 21 degrees, but switched. So Venus was at 21 degrees of Gemini, and Mars was at 21 degrees of Virgo. So that was back last year, in July of 2025. It was the closing square, and then they conjoined in January, and now it was an opening square as they are departing from one another. The basic energies of Mars and Venus have been long interpreted as men and women. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I just want to say that that is not what I see. I see them as two forms of desire. And we could call it the masculine form of desire and the feminine form of desire if you want. Actually, I do like that. But they are two branches of one thing. Male and female are one thing. Just grown a little differently. And men and women all need to identify with both of these branches of desire. And what made this one so magical? I would not have even known about this square at all, or the 21 degrees, or I just wouldn't have known about it at all if the playlist that I made last year at the closing square didn't appear just in my head yesterday. I just picked up an Uber passenger, and I thought of the movie that I talked about in my last video, The Invite, which has Penelope Cruz in it, and she's the sexy sexologist. And when she and, well, there's a scene where she starts dancing to Sade, like the R&B sexy sexologist of the 90s or whatever. And I have a lot of Sade on this playlist. And it appeared in my head like, oh, that's what I'm going to listen to on my next walk. Because I'm always running out of stuff to listen to on my walks. And then I opened up the playlist later, and I saw that it was talking about, that I had written in the description about the Venus and Mars square. I had completely forgotten that's why I made the playlist. And then I was like, oh, but I just watched that video. I think we're in a Venus-Mars square right now. And lo and behold, we were. All at 21 degrees. This is how astrology really grabs you. I mean, it, and music too, okay? I'm even watching One Tree Hill, the early 2000s classic. And this is universal. We all have this magical thinking. In one scene, a character is listening to, she's in a taxi cab, and it's the same character I also talked about in my last video. Or one of my last videos. The one with disappeared parents. I guess the radio becomes our parent. When our parents, I mean, my parents were there. I'm not trying to diss my parents. My parents were fantastic. As a soul, I probably chose them because they gave me little rules, okay? But anyway, she's in a taxi cab and she needs some advice. So she asks the taxi cab driver to turn on the radio because she's going to get her advice from the song that's on. And I don't remember her story or what song comes up for her, but we all kind of have this slight magical thinking where we're looking for signs, even if we don't know. And astrology just streamlines that process, and it will demonstrate to you its utility. And it's just like any other language. It is useful. It's not just like learning astrology is like putting in the wires and the telephone lines so that you can pick up the phone from God. And God's going to call if you will put in that work. It's like with any other connection, you have to work to foster connections. Yeah, we're all just here together. That's great. And we help one another out. And that's great. And blah, 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 blah. But just being here isn't enough. With the advanced brains that we have to work a little harder to foster our connections. And that's the Libra bridge we're going to get to in the next couple years. Don't even worry about that right now. If you feel unhealthy and unwell, then just work on you as a plant. That's your active service for others. Work on your connection to God and yourself, and then your neighbor, which is anybody outside of you, especially the ones that are different from you. Do all that first, but we're going to get to the Libra shit in the next 2 to 3 years. Okay? And I'm just suffering in the meantime, and I need this as therapy. Thank you for listening.